My name is Kris Hennings, and I will be taking you through a segment about laws that every manager should know. As a manager, you have a legal and ethical responsibility to federal and state laws to protect yourself and Caesars from lawsuits and inadvertent actions. Resources is here to help. Please feel free to contact us with any questions that you may have regarding the wide range of employment issues that may arise in your time as manager. Common expectations for Caesars managers can be found on slides that read Need to Know. As a manager, you are expected to have a working knowledge of these laws, and it's a quick reference to help you know how to protect Caesars and yourself from fines, fees, and illegal activities. I will give you an overview of some of the laws that you should be familiar with, such as the Civil Rights Act, Equal Pay Act, and Age and Discrimination in Employment Act. Rights Act of 1964 makes it illegal to discriminate against employees in one of the 6 protected classes: age, race, religion, national origin, sex, and disability. It protects the employee from harassment and denial of reasonable accommodations because of a disability and from retaliation from those who pointed out discrepancies. The Equal Pay Act requires that employees do not discriminate based on sex for jobs that require the same skill, effort, and responsibility. You can be paid differently based on seniority, merit, and other factors other than sex. Age Discrimination Act. It is unlawful for an employer to discriminate against anyone 40 years of age or older in the United States. Failure or refusal to hire, discharge an individual, or failure to compensate appropriately because of someone's age is illegal. The Civil Rights Act of 1991 introduced right to trial for discrimination and introduced the possibility of emotional distress damages that a jury could award. Family Medical Leave Act, otherwise known as FMLA, grants 12 weeks of unpaid leave from work for either parent to care for a new baby, adoption, or severe illness of a child. Employees must have worked for 12 months, and there are intermittent options that are available to care for wounded soldiers and seriously ill family members. What managers need to know? Listen to your employees and decide what kind of accommodation they might need. Address flexible schedule and essential job functions that may be difficult. Have the employee notify HR immediately to proceed with eligible leave and appropriate paperwork. Pregnancy Discrimination Act. It is illegal to discriminate against a woman because of pregnancy, childbirth, or a medical condition related to childbirth or pregnancy. Women who return to work may want to pump to store breast milk. They should be allowed ample break time and a private area to do so. What managers need to know: treat pregnant women the same as temporarily disabled people. Don't discriminate against them in terms of hiring, firing, compensation, or other terms of employment. Environmental Protection Agency, otherwise known as the EPA, establishes laws that employers need to follow in respect to the environment. There are many regulations, and the functions of the EPA and violations by you or the company can result in severe penalties and judicial enforcement. What managers need to know: ensure compliance with written laws and procedures, take complaints or possible violations to HR immediately, and be proactive and watch for possible safety hazards in the workplace. Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, COBRA, requires that your health plan covers you, your spouse, former spouse, and dependent children if you have a qualifying event. A qualifying event may mean termination, reduction in number of hours worked, divorce, separation, or death of a spouse, or you become entitled to Medicaid. Workers' Comp Act. This is a form of insurance that our company pays into to ensure that those who happen to be injured on the job will be covered at the employer's expense. Qualifying employees can recover lost wages, medical expenses, disability payments, and costs associated with rehabilitation. First Adjustment and Retraining Notification, otherwise known as WARN. This law protects employees, their families, and communities by requiring most companies with over 100 workers a 60-day calendar notice of plant closing or mass layoffs. The only exception to WARN would be in the case of natural disaster or unforeseeable business circumstances. Fair Labor Standards Act establishes minimum pay, overtime pay, record-keeping mandates, and addresses youth employment issues. FLSA does not regulate vacation, holiday, or sick pay, meals or breaks, premium pay for weekends, raises, and reasons for discharge. Remember, our tipped employees at Caesars can be paid a minimum of $2.13 an hour in direct wages as long as they earn enough in tips to make $9.07 an hour. If not, Caesars will be forced to pay the difference. Managers need to know: become familiar with the rules regarding overtime. Make sure employees are recording hours and that you're verifying them. Understand if the employee is exempt and work with HR if their essential duties change. Remember, non-exempt entitled to overtime pay. Exempt would be a salaried worker. Americans with Disability Act prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities in all areas of public life. These persons are given the same employment opportunities as everyone else. An employer may not have to make physical changes to the building if they would cause undue hardship for the organization. What managers need to know: recognize need for reasonable accommodation and decide what kind of accommodation would be appropriate. Work with HR to identify essential job functions of each position. National Labor Relations Act, NLRA. This law protects employees and employers to maintain collective bargaining agreements. Employees also have the freedom to form, attempt to form, or assist in organizing fellow employees to unionize. Employers are not allowed to threaten, close the business, question employees about union activities, or lay off or transfer union supporters. What managers need to know: Understand employees' rights for collective bargaining and don't discriminate, retaliate, or restrain union supporters. Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, GINA, protects individuals from genetic discrimination in health insurance and employment. The law forbids discrimination by hiring, firing, promoting, pay, or layoffs because of employees' genetic information. Managers need to know. Remember to keep employee information private. Don't discriminate and don't harass employee based on personal genetic information that you may have given knowledge of. Occupational Safety and Health Act, otherwise known as OSHA. This law sets and enforces protective workplace and safety as well as health standards. All employees have a right to work on machines that are safe, wear required safety gear, and see records of workplace injuries or illness logs of employer. Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. This health care legislation requires that all Americans have health insurance or pay a penalty. Added that insurance companies cannot deny coverage for pre-existing conditions and granted coverage for dependents until age 26 on their parents' insurance. Employee Retirement Income Security Act, ERSA, regulates employee pension plans and sets minimum standards to protect individuals, requires plans to provide information, fiduciary responsibility, grievance process, and ability to sue for benefits. Fair Credit Reporting Act. To do background checks on prospective candidates, you must have written permission, a specific reason, be sure to use information appropriately, and have a way for candidate to dispute findings. Thank you for listening to Laws That Every Manager Should Know. I hope you find this information helpful, and be sure to contact me, Kris Hennings, at Caesars Human Resources if you have additional questions or concerns about any issue. Best of luck to you in your managerial position. Thank you.